Hello YouTube, it is July 26, 2019. I know it's been over a month since we done one of these videos on Andrew Yang. Had to take some time off for a variety of reasons. Y'all know I started a new job where it's at a actual physical location, about to start another one back at home, amongst other things. Also getting finally back on the beauty channel after 2 months from being over there. And I had to give y'all an update on Conduent over on the business channel. Y'all been asking me about Conduent amongst other jobs. So I've also been giving my business videos on my business channel. So all of that will be in the description box below. My business channel, my beauty channel, and then of course, my personal life is on this channel outside of the politic talks. But to my political people, we're finally back, especially the Yang gang. We ended off on part 5 where we ended with fight for equal pay. We went through 9 points, I believe. Yeah, we went through the pathway to citizenship, reduce mass incarceration, the gun safety, support the Dream Act, all of that. But today we want to go through these final points on this second slide. Ooh, we done came such a long way, y'all, from economy, jobs, and labor. We done went through all of this section over here. And now we on the last part of civil rights and criminal justice before we get to democracy and government, which covers all those points over there. Whew. So number 6, y'all. I thought it was going to take 30 slides, 30 videos to get through all this, but it looks like we might be able to get it all within 10 videos. So legalization of marijuana. Let's get on into it. Okay, very short, simple, and sweet. Okay. Marijuana is still considered a controlled substance by federal law. Thousands are in jail for marijuana-related offenses, particularly people of color. Y'all know how I feel about that term because there's only one specific group of people of color that's affected by that. So when I think of marijuana, I specifically think of black people suffering the most. So yeah, I don't know about that people of color. Asian people, Hispanics are not really getting in jail like that. Native Americans, like people of color, is such an open-ended term that I don't think it should be used in this context. But okay, Andrew. Moving on. Yet marijuana is now legal for adults use in 11 states in the District of Columbia, and 33 states have legalized medical marijuana in some form. Unfortunately, North Carolina is still giving us the pushback, honey. And you would think it wouldn't be like that considering we got a Democratic darn governor, Ward Cooper. We need to darn see what's going on with Ward Cooper with legalization of marijuana because I don't see where it should be any pushback, at least on the medical front. Like, I don't know what's going on with Ward Cooper with the medical marijuana, but yeah, we're going to do a video on him soon enough. But back to Andrew Yang, we need to resolve the ambiguity and legalize marijuana at the federal level. That will improve safety, social equity, and generate tens of billions of dollars in new revenue based on legal cannabis businesses. And then it says the problems we solve. Thousands of Americans, many of them minorities, are in jail for nonviolent marijuana related offenses, even as it is now legal in 9 states. Federal treatments of marijuana is unclear as it remains a controlled substance under the law. Unregulated marijuana leads to safety issues and lack of oversight. Provide justice and equality for convicted marijuana use and possession. Provide regulation and oversight of the marijuana industry. Generate revenue as president. Support the full legalization of marijuana at the federal level and remove it from the controlled substance list. Okay. Expunge the federal convictions of all marijuana related use of possession and offenses. Now, I'm not here for that, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, I do believe that there needs to still be a weight limit because just because something is no longer of a danger don't mean now you can get away with, having hundreds of pounds of weed on you now. Now that will still be trafficking, even if you consider it like a medical substance. You still got to treat it as it's still a form of trafficking of a substance that needs to be regulated. So I'm not for fully expunging, marijuana convictions depending on the poundage. But if you talking about, regular people just had a nick bag or a 8 ball or some shit like that, okay. Or even if you had like upwards of a pound of marijuana on you, okay. But once we start talking about 30, 50, 60, 70 plus pounds, so I'm not completely for expunging federal convictions, but I am for modifying it. I am for lowering sentences and stuff for marijuana. However, let's not be completely laissez-faire and darn gonna have people, who's darn gonna be in traffic and getting off on this as well. But next is identify nonviolent drug offenders for probation and potential early release. Okay. So overall, we about 80% in agreement. Once again, he's a little bit too laissez-faire for me, baby. It's like you going up against Elizabeth Warren. She's been more in detail on these subjects. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris. Like, come on, Yang Gang. We need to step it on up now. You got all these policies, but it doesn't do any point if you're going to be very vague on the subject. But overall, I agree. So moving on, make Puerto Rico a state. I might just redirect y'all to my video that I did on this, but we're going to see what he said. So Puerto Rico has been part of the United States for over a century, and yet its people are still denied many of the rights of full citizens because it is a commonwealth of the U.S. instead of a full state. Puerto Ricans overwhelmingly want to be a state, and we should endorse that and make it happen. Okay, problems to be solved. Puerto Rico has been part of the U.S. for over a century, but has never been granted the full rights of statehood. As president, takes all steps necessary to promote Puerto Rican statehood as an overdue step towards equality, if that is what Puerto Ricans want. See, now here's the problem with that. Now I'm going to go and just summarize my video on the many reasons why I don't think Puerto Rico should become a state at this time. Number one, during racial tensions and immigration, we're dealing with a lot of interchangeable parts. Let me sit up for this one. See, Puerto Rico is number one, a Hispanic-based community where their first language is Spanish. That's going to cause some confusion right there because we're still in the midst of this immigration crisis with dealing with, the DREAM Acts and people who are born here who are Hispanic who are getting sent back over. Now, it's going to be a slap in the face if we make Puerto Rico a state. And yes, they have been a territory of the United States for the longest. But think about the people who are Hispanic who have been born here, that are called, some call them anchor babies, some call them the dreamers, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. But they have grown up here, speak English, don't know nothing about the culture but American culture, and they're getting sent back with their parents at times. Because, some of them may have only been here since they were 6 months old. So, like, technically, they may not have been born here, but it's like, you might as well be. And it's like, if you're a 3-day-old baby or a 6-month-old baby, and it's the only thing you know, basically, inadvertently, you were born here, even though you wasn't physically born here, if that makes sense. So, technically, you have a lot of dreamers who fall under that situation as well. And then you got the anchor babies who feel compelled to go over the border with their parents. Even if they're born here, the parents wasn't. So we ain't got that under control. Then you got the darn on illegals who are committing the crimes, making it bad for the ones who are trying to come here and fill out the paperwork the right way. So we got that issue where we got rapists and drug dealers who can't even be questioned because of the way that HIPAA laws are written. Is a violation to question certain Mexicans, even if they pose a potential threat, But it's done in such a way where white people and black people who are born here are able to get more questioning. And if I get pulled over by the police or a white person get pulled over and you ask for their ID, it's regular protocol. You ask a Hispanic person, honey, you might darn gonna wind up in federal court on violation of HIPAA laws. So we got all that confusion going on. Then you have to think about Puerto Ricans becoming a state. They now have full clemency to move to other states however they choose. Then you got the confusion because people who are not Spanish speaking and not familiar with different dialects of Hispanic countries are going to confuse the illegals and the Mexicans with Puerto Ricans. And you know how Puerto Ricans are when it comes to being confused with Mexican people. And under this time, you have Puerto Ricans, once again, they speak mostly Spanish, right? So what happens when you force a whole territory to become a state without, implementing some guidelines on, learning the language of English? Because that's another slap, because now you're making a territory, a state that has mostly Spanish speakers, which once again ain't no problem. But the confusion I'm going to think is going to come up is when they get when they start getting mistaken for Mexicans and vice versa. And then I'm sure you're going to have DMVs and stuff where they have the licenses and they have their social security cards. But what is stopping the Ecuadorians, what is stopping the Ecuadorians and all of them for getting false licenses and pretending to be Puerto Ricans? So it's all of that you have to deal with as well. And then let's not even get into the senses where you have Puerto Ricans who have hair kinkier than mine. Now my hair is in a wash and go today, and I do an update on my channel, but I'm showing off my beautiful type 4 curls and some type 3 in the back. But you have Puerto Ricans who have straight up 4C hair or hair similar to mine's, right? And are darker than me, but will swear out that they are white. Like they are able to classify themselves white on their senses. So it's like we have to address that issue as well, because Puerto Rico is a nationality. Hispanic is the culture. And the races are various. You have black Puerto Ricans, you have Asian Puerto Ricans, white Puerto Ricans, indigenous Puerto Ricans, but you have Puerto Ricans who can be darker than me, hair kinkier than mine, nose wider, lips fuller, and can classify themselves white on the census. So adapting them over to the American census, are those black Puerto Ricans now forced to now go and classify themselves as white, as black, even though they have been able to claim whiteness for the longest, which I don't see how that's possible. You chocolate than me, but you're, for whatever reason, you want to claim white. Now, how is that going to work? So it's a whole bunch of culture, issues that we have to deal with Puerto Rico. In addition to, I'm sorry, y'all, my phones and notifications going off left and right. But in addition to, I also touch on the economic crisis of how this will be a problem as well. So I will leave the video down below. I go into a long detail about this, the economic issues that it will pose, the racial tensions that it will pose during this specific time, the confusion that it will impose onto the state as well. So let's put Puerto Rico as a state on the back burner for now. I'm not saying that it can't be a state along with the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I also went into the comparison of why Puerto Rico always get mentioned for statehood, but the U.S. Virgin Islands doesn't. And once again, both of them have been territories of, the U.S. Virgin Islands is literally got the name U.S. in it. But we're talking about Puerto Rico before the U.S. So that's even some, animosity right there. So due to all of those issues, we want to hold off right now. Let's get the dreamers together first. Let's get the illegals who are making it bad for everybody on out first. Let's get our economy in the state up first before bringing other people in. There's a lot of stuff that we have to do as Americans before we can even entertain bringing any other areas, including our territories, into statehood. So let's clean up all the other stuff first before we can even entertain this issue. So that's my thoughts on that. If y'all want more about it, go look at my Why Puerto Rico Should Not Be a State video, and that will be located down below. I know that was a lot of information in a little bit of time, but I'm trying to get through this video today. We're gonna get through all these points. So next is every cop gets a camera. Whew. I should have brought me some. I should have got me some water. I don't even got my water for this one. I get it for the next video because I got to do another one on my business channel about my job, honey. So I get the water when we discuss my my new job. But anyways, the benefits of body camera on police officers are clear. Okay, he got a good old long lengthy one for this one. A year-long study in Raleigh, California showed a reduction of the rate of use of force incidents of 60% and of 88% reduction in complaints. Studies have shown that complaints drop dramatically when police officers are wearing cameras. Okay, we'll get into that in a moment. Both because of police conduct and because suspects have behaved better when they know they're being recorded. It's common sense. Everyone is going to act differently if they think they're saying or doing can be played back in a courtroom months later. There are 18,000 different local law enforcement agencies from the smallest town to the NYPD. Each agency is subject to its own budget, leadership, and regulations. Nationally, there are thousands of decision makers, each balance different interests and budgetary constraints, making widespread adoption difficult. It would cost approximately $400 million to equip all 1.1 million U.S. police officers with body-worn camera. Current costs are approximately $350 a piece, not including data storage and maintenance. Approximately 400 to 1,000 Americans get shot and killed per year by police. The state aren't clearly kept, which is its own massive problem. Some of which may be avoidable. Additional police departments receive thousands of complaints and lawsuits per year. Cameras will save many municipalities money by reducing legal costs, defending against complaints from the frivolous to the legitimate. The expense line is massive. The NYPD spent $136 million on legal settlements for complaints about police misconduct in 2010 alone. I wonder why. We'll get into it in a moment. If cameras reduce this amount by any percentage, they easily pay for themselves. The same is true for other cities around the country. Cameras would not only save lives and reduce incidents, but they have saved cities millions in legal costs. As one company that manufactures cameras put it, made for cops, by cops, prove the truth. Okay, maybe he gets to the point. I'm going to give Andrew the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he, highlights what I want him to mention as president. As president, authorize federal funding to pay for body cameras for every officer in every police department in the county. Have the Department of Justice compile accurate composite measurements, including from private sources of police-related incidents and deaths to establish baseline rates. Provide federal funding for training of local police officers in the latest techniques. Encourage community-based policing and reward departments for a combination of low complaints and continued efficiency. Okay, now I love that one right there. Switch the way police acts as far as rewarding them for having low crime rates as opposed to them feeling compelled to meet their quota, because right now polices are rewarded more so for being in high crime areas and meeting quotas during certain times of the year, which is really weird to me, because if you are in an area that doesn't have that much crime, why should you be going out your way to search for crime if there isn't really none to be found? I mean, if it's not none to be found, it should be a reward that you're in a city that is well behaved, that doesn't have crime, versus, trying to go above and beyond for people going 2 miles above the speed limit, like trying to arrest somebody on some petty crime just to meet your quota for the month. Why do police officers have quotas for that type of shit anyway? They should be rewarded for, low complaints and continued efficiency, as opposed to trying to seek out, jaywalking and all of that. But anyways, invest in new non-lethal weaponry that can be used to de-escalate conflicts at range, and handprint signature guns so that weapons can only be used by their officers. He reached for my gun will no longer apply. Okay, so that's what Joe Biden was talking about, but he said it in such darn technical terms that it went over a lot of people's head, where he went into talking about, guns with barrel I can't even pronounce it, biometric triggers. Like, Joe Biden said that shit in such a darn fast, intellectual way that it went over the average American head, including me. So with that being said, I love that Andrew Yang breaks it down in layman's terms for everybody to understand about guns that are equipped to recognize the officer's thumbprints only. So that way, if the gun is taken from the officer, there's no longer a fear that the assailant is going to shoot the police officer, because that gun is only going to respond to that particular officer. I'm definitely, if we have the technology for that, I am 100% here for it, and it definitely needs to be funded. And that way, some of these officers who fake like a assailant try to reach for their gun, that shit would no longer apply. So I'm totally here for that, Andrew Yang. But what I'm not here for is the fact that you did not mention that states that have cameras, there's no regulation. There has been fights left and right throughout the whole nation for the public to be able to see the camera footage. Even when the camera footage is shown, we're still dealing with corrupt politicians who are in bed with the blue wall of silence. I have not heard you even address the blue wall of silence, let alone any other candidate running. So what is the point of equipping all of them with body cameras if they are still subject to release it at any time that they want to, and not at the request of the people? The camera footage you get played, such as Philando Castile being killed at point blank range, we see that he did not have no weapon in his hand. He did not pose any threat to the officer. We seen Eric Garner get choked out. And once again, these cases just go dismissed. Eric Garner's case was on his 5th year anniversary, and in the audacity. And then this is how trifling they is. They'll wait to specific moments to do stuff. Like, they wait to the 5-year anniversary to dismiss the officer who was responsible for choking Eric Garner. They waited specifically to his anniversary. Just like on Juneteenth, they waited to Juneteenth to do a radio. I was hearing on the radio on my way to work about a white man supposed to start the civil rights movement over Martin Luther King. You decided to try to release that information on Juneteenth of all days. And then the other shit just goes on and on at convenient timing at the expense of black people. Really? Like, we ain't addressing none of that. But it's like, yeah, what's the point of having the cameras if, they're not being enforced, that they should have them turned on at all times? Andrew Yang failed to even mention that he will have every cop forced to have their cameras turned on in every crime situation that is presumed to be escalated. Because if they still subject to be able to turn them on and off at whatever time they feel like it, then what's the point of having the camera in the first place? If the camera is more of a benefit to the police officer than the people, and the police officers are hired by the people to defend the people, then what's the point of the cameras in the first place? It seems like if the cameras are just a waste of expense to me. if they're not going to be fully used for the protection of people. So you no longer have police brutality cases. You no longer have to deal with he say, she say, and people naturally having to gravitate towards believing an officer versus believing a poor white or a poor black person in a low income neighborhood. You naturally going to take the side of the officer. But the camera will show the truth. The truth. You got the officer side, you got the victim side, or the potential assailant side, and then you got the truth with the camera footage. So if you force the camera to be on, you won't have to darn on wonder who's telling the truth. And at no point did Andrew Yang point that out. So yeah, you lost some major points on that one. Kamala Harris got a one up on you when it came to that because Kamala Harris mentioned about keeping the cameras on in her recent policy. Now you can clap back at her and say, well, you was letting them slide on keeping the cameras off yourself over there when you was darn on Attorney General in California. So I'm not saying that she's completely innocent either. But as far as at least her mentioning that the camera should stay turned on, she got a one up on you on that one. Just for somebody else to turn around and point out her history of not enforcing what she's now trying to preach. So yeah, Andrew Yang, it don't look good for you. You even got darn on Kamala Harris looking better than you on this particular talking point. So yeah, Yang Gang, get with Andrew Yang and have him modify this because right now this don't look good for him. Matter of fact, refer him to this darn on video. Okay, now that we got that out the way, let's go ahead to the next point. Data as a property right. Each of us generates a significant amount of data each day during the normal course of activities. Okay, I see we within his realm of expertise because, he really liked the darn. I noticed that Andrew Yang on the topics that he really are focused on. He likes to do the long paragraphs, and the ones that he really not interested in, like marijuana. You see how he gave a little teeny tiny sentence, but the ones that he really truly interested in, he gives these good old long reads. I just thought I wanted to point that out. But anyways, back to the thing. Our phones and computers track our movement and actions while our browsers and websites track our online activities. As we've seen, some of the largest tech companies can know more about us and our lives than our families and those closest to us. As of now, that data is owned by the people who collect it, and they're allowed to do anything they want with it. They've sold it, used it to target us with advertisements, and have analyzed the vast quantity of data to draw conclusions on whole populations, allowing them to monetize it. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing per se, but we'll get into that. We've also seen it abused. Some companies have done it enough to protect our data, um, resulting in breaches that have made our private information insecure. Others have sold it to distributable companies, allowing them to target us for everything from marketing, fraudulent services, to influencing elections. Companies themselves have asked for better and clear rules. And of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't start sniffling halfway through the video, y'all. I'll be glad that this will stop when I move out this house. Okay, anyways, this needs to stop. Data generated by each individual needs to be owned by them with contained rights conveyed that will allow them to know how it's used and protected. These rights include the right to be informed as to what data will be collected and how it will be used, the right to opt out of data collection or sharing. Okay, I agree with that one. The right to be told if a website has data on you and what that data is. Okay. The right to be forgotten, to have all data related to you deleted upon request. The right to be informed if ownership of your data changes hands. The right to be informed of any data breaches, including your information in a timely manner. The right to download all data in a standardized format to port to another platform. Okay, now who's going to have all this storage? It's like the average person darn on clicks on they darn on computer over 1,000 times a day. Like, where are we storing this information at? Maybe he has an answer for that later on. Let's see. Consent should be informed, and active companies are responsible for ensuring they collect a positive opt-in from each user before collecting any data, and this opt-in should be accompanied by a clear and easy to read statement about what data is being collected and how it's going to be used. You can waive these rights and opt in to sharing your data if you wish for the company's benefit and your own convenience, but then you should receive a share of the economic value generated from your data. Okay. As president, worked with Congress to pass a law establishing data as a property right as defined above. Okay, now the number one issue I see with this is sites such as Walmart, Target, Kohl's, Victoria's Secret, all of these sites that store your data as a memory reference to see what you normally buy. That way, it's easier for them to just jump to stuff that you like when you get back on the site. If you are erasing that every time, I can see that being an inconvenience to this. Every time, y'all. Every time. Wouldn't be me if I didn't have a phone call from my actual phone, my cell phone, or my virtual phone doing a video. But like I was saying, I can see that being somewhat of an inconvenience. Like also ride sharing stores your data. So are we opting out of the ride sharing now? It's like I can see a lot of confusion coming up from this. Because then if you opt out and erase your ride history, like if you opt out of it, your ride history is not stored properly. Then if you want to avoid a certain Uber rider, that's going to be problematic because now you didn't darn on your rating can probably be deleted if you opting out of all your data being taken. And it's just stuff like that that I can see that can be real irritating. And then you saying for us to have the right to store our own data. Like I said, most people are browsing through multiple websites a day, and if you forcing them to opt in just to look through cookies and snacks and bras and skincare, hair care products, I don't know that the average person really want to store that type of information. Like really. But yeah, definitely when you're talking about selling our darn personal information like our credit card statements and stuff like that, well, we definitely should be notified of that stuff. When you selling our shit to marketers, yeah, we do have the right to know that. But as far as storage in general, I don't think the average American is worried about Walmart and Target having a storage information. I think it's more of a convenience than a potential threat in my case. Even when they have been breached, it depends. Once again, it's a very complex subject because then when the breach happens, it's like, okay, is they got a hold of the credit? That's the only thing I think most people are worried about. It's like, okay, what about the credit card information? As long as that shit is secured, as long as my PayPal information is secured, are we good? Now, America Express just got not America Express, but Experian, your credit reporting agency that has all your shit on there, your social security, your darn on addresses, your whole personal darn on debt history. Experian darn on just had a data breach. Now that's what most people are worried about. But as far as like Walmart and Target in general, as long as they got the encryption where your credit cards are secure, ain't nobody worried about Walmart knowing what they like to spend. It makes it easier for them to navigate through the site. Now, as long as you ain't selling my stuff over to no marketers, we good. And if you are, I have the right to opt out of that. So overall, I'm about 70% in agreement with this. Um, Yeah, that's satisfactory enough. I'm 70% in agreement with the data as a property right. So next is algorithm, or is that arithmetic? Algorithmic trading / fraud. Yeah, that sounds more like it makes sense. Algorithmic trading fraud. The way that trading algorithms currently operate makes it exceptionally difficult to find instances of impropriety. To combat this and make sure that everyone is operating cleanly, we must empower the Commodity Futures Trading Commission (CFTC) to investigate any trades that consistently make money regardless of market movements. We must also enlist a network of veteran traders to police the market, offering them bounties on finding illegal activity. Okay, I see this is one of these darn on topics I want to gloss over because this one's going to be above my head, and I don't think the average American is even worried about this one as well. Even though it might be something that we should be worried about, but to the people who know about this subject, honey, feel free to put it down in the comment section and put it back in layman's terms for us that this is just going over our heads, honey. Provide CFTC with enough funding to properly investigate any suspicious trades, algorithms, create a new team to find financial crime, and bring the perpetrators to justice. I don't know what half that means. Only thing I'm thinking of is Martha. I know y'all, this is my dumb moment, honey. Only thing I'm thinking of is this about the stock exchange, about people knowing shit ahead of time and they have an unnatural advantage. Like, is y'all talking about getting the Martha Stewarts in line? That's what I'm thinking about when I see this policy right here. They trying to darn gonna come after old Martha. So, okay, if that's the case, I guess I'm in agreement with it. But if it means something totally different to my people who are familiar with this subject, y'all can tell I ain't even know how to pronounce this word right here anyways. So, yeah, y'all help a girl out and tell us what this means. Algorithmic trading fraud. Is this some darn a Martha Stewart stock exchange type issue? Is this some Bernie Madoff type stuff going on right here? Yeah, y'all fill us in down below. So next is economic crime. Wall Street investments firms made billions of dollars off the subprime mortgages market only to receive a bailout from the government while millions of Americans suffered through the Great Recession. Those who made the decisions that led to the crisis not only got off scot-free but also became rich off of the spoils. The criminal justice system looked the other way because there was no mechanism to prosecute decision makers. Instead, financial crimes should be treated the same way as any other crime. Those perpetrating should go to jail, and their punishment should reflect the amount of damage they've done to the economy and individuals they defrauded. I agree with that one. As president, propose and promote the Public Protection Against Marketing Abuse Act. Uh, I'm just going to go ahead and create an acronym for that right now and call it PPAMAA. So once again, PPAMAA, calling for mandatory minimum jail sentences based either on the size of the fine levied against financial institutions or the amount of money involved in the fraudulent or unethical transactions. These sentences will be served by the CEO and largest individual domestic shareholder. Oh. Now, what if the shareholder didn't know? Now, there has been cases where the shareholders have been oblivious to this as well. Now, sometimes the shareholder does not always get like. Let's not confuse the largest shareholder. I mean, now the only exception is if they own the majority of the company. Just because you are the largest shareholder, don't necessarily mean that you own the majority of the company. Like, one person can own 30% of the company and still be oblivious to certain stuff that's going on. But he has a large decision in there. But yeah, I'm going to need Angie Yang to clarify that. So yeah, I don't. Shareholder, I think should only be responsible if he owns a majority of the company, where all decisions have to go through that person first, because then you can't say that you was oblivious to it. But if you own like the single largest percentage of shares, I think there should be some leeway for you. But anyways, direct my Department of Justice to enforce law against financial institutions to the fullest extent of their power. Okay, so far I'm 65% here for that. Like I said, I don't know about punishing everybody who's a large shareholder. Lord Jesus might get Beyonce and Jay-Z caught up in some shit. They darn on, Jay-Z and Beyonce got they darn on stake in everything, and they don't be really darn on fully into their companies like that. Hell, we see how Tidal been darn on doing some folks. Don't get the queen be darn on caught up in no shit, Andrew Yang. So yeah, same thing with P Diddy and them. They be owning certain darn old stocks and stuff, but be letting everybody else run it because they got their music careers and 10,000 other things going on. So yeah, I'm gonna need Andrew Yang to clarify what he mean by largest shareholder. Unless it's 51% of the company, the shareholder shouldn't be responsible. Now, as far as the CEO and stuff, yeah, they got some explaining to do. But yeah, shareholder, we can give them some leeway. And then the last thing is lower the voting age to 16. Why I feel like I've mentioned this before. I might have mentioned this with another person. Because I definitely don't recall going to Andrew Yang's, I mentioned Andrew Yang's thoughts on this. While the 2018 midterm election saw the highest turnout in a non-presidential year since 1914, the turnout was still under 50%. Presidential election turnout hovers between 50 and 65%. This is low. While reform making it easier to vote should be implemented as well, we could also increase civic engagement in regular voting by lowering the voting age. Students show that allowing younger people to vote has passive impact on overall voting habits. Localities that have lowered the voting age have seen an increase in voter turnout across all age groups. Other studies have shown that delaying when a person first votes because of birth dates and election cycles decrease the likelihood that they will become a regular voter. Okay, okay. I'm going to finish my darn on. I'm going to finish reading before I give my thoughts. At 16, Americans don't have hourly limits imposed on their work and they pay taxes. What the word you mean they don't have hourly limits? They still under the age of 18 and they still subject to darn on worker permit laws. Now, Andrew Yang, let's not darn on prevaricate on the darn on platform now. Like now, wait a minute. Now, I might not be well versed on certain issues, but honey, you ain't about to completely go above my head. Now, 16, you do have some work restrictions now, boo boo. Now, if you are still in school, if you're still under the age where you cannot get into certain legally binding contracts, if you are not a high school graduate with a diploma, you still got some work restrictions. Like now, Andrew, don't try it now. See, this is what I call putting 20 on 10 right here. Now, Andrew, you just try to put 20 on 10 on a girl real quick. Now, you might have fucked me up on the darn on arithmetic, darn on algorithm, darn on word, but you ain't going to mess over me with this. Now, this is my area expertise, baby. But anyways, back to the thing. Their livelihood are directly impacted by legislation, and they should therefore be allowed to vote for their representatives. Okay, let me finish first. Additionally, because election cycles, there's a level of unfairness that comes with what year a person is born. Senators are on a 6-year cycle and the president on a 4-year cycle. Not to mention local officers. Someone born at the wrong time in a cycle would have to wait much longer to cast a ballot for certain offices than someone born at another time. While that's true if the voting age is lowered to 16, it decreases the age at which the person is first allowed to vote for that office, thus allowing them to have a longer period of their life while they feel represented. Okay, a year and a half to 2 years. Okay, let me get through this. The last point, then we're closing this on out. Lower the voting age for federal elections to 16. Okay, this is why I feel that this is problematic at this time. Currently, due to the way that our education system is set up, the average person, especially in North Carolina, doesn't take civics, where we go into learning about the different branches of government. That is offered, at least it was in my school, in the 10th grade. So it's like, uh, do we really want somebody voting for certain offices if they haven't even been taught what those offices are in full detail? Now, maybe if we change our, education up first, where they are taught this early on, like maybe in the late of middle school, if we can push civics into the 8th grade or ninth grade, so by the time they turn 16, then they are equipped with enough general knowledge to vote. But it's like that's going to be awkward if they're learning about the different branches of government and then they have the right to vote, but they haven't even fully been educated on the subject, depending on if they take civics during their first semester or second semester. Like, how are we going to explain that, Andrew Yang? Second semester in North Carolina starts up in January. But the election cycles are, October, November for the first semester. Now, if somebody has civics during a second semester, but they are already 16, now how is that going to work? I'm just wondering. Inquiring minds want to know. Like I said, now maybe if you are willing to address, educating students a little bit early on these types of subjects, and then they can become equipped to vote, maybe. But right now, since civics is typically offered right at the end of ninth grade, start of 10th grade, I think we should go ahead and keep it the age range at 18 for now. And I think that's going to wrap this up, y'all. So we are finally done with the second bullet slide. We're done with civil rights and criminal justice reform. And number 6, we're going to go over, or is this number 6 right here? See, I done did so much that I'm confused on the number. So number 7. So in Andrew Yang's policy number 7, we're going to go on the top points of democracy slash governance with these policies right here. We're going to see how much we're going to get through on number 7. But that is it, y'all. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you have any questions or critiques, feel free to leave it down below. And I'll see y'all soon with more videos. And also, within a day of this video being uploaded, just in case you seen it earlier, the timestamps will be below. Sometimes it takes me a day to 2 days to get the timestamps together. So they will be there within 2 days of this video uploading.